Well, good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome back to the TTC Premier Tier for what is already the penultimate round of the season. We are at this circuit. Everybody knows we were here last night, obviously, for those who watched last night's events, but we are here back at the Temple of Speed at Monza, a very fast flowing short track that hopefully should be done very, very quickly. Not for my benefit, for your benefit, and hopefully this time we're not going to have to wait a million years to have to get going and watch this great spectacle. Can the championship be wrapped up here tonight? Well, let's just put it plain and simple. All SCI need to do is essentially score 8 points. That is it. 8 points is all they need to wrap up the title. You could technically say 7, but say that unfortunately that would count back. Then they would win on number of victories compared to their nearest challengers, which is FRT. So yeah, not likely to. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So it's going to have to be at least 8 points. Well, in fact, actually 7 points. Actually, no, 7 points is fine then. In that case. Either way, that is enough about that. Obviously, some of these drivers did race last night, some did not, and will be obviously partaking here this evening. But that is your grid on the right hand side. We do only have one Williams, I'm afraid. I think from what I'm reading, Diogo cannot make it. He's stuck in traffic or something from work. So that is Legacy Racing only having one driver here tonight. So we have 19 drivers here for you for the round 14, the penultimate round of the season before we hit Abu Dhabi next week. And look at that bright blue sunshine. That is what you love to see in the southern Mediterranean, is wall-to-wall sunshine. There, like I said, you can see on your left-hand side the 19 drivers who are going to be taking part here. But good evening to you all. Welcome along for this, like I said, hopefully this very, very quick session. This might be the quickest on entirety, actually, but we'll wait and see. I hope I don't jinx that. We don't have to restart anything, as we've had done at least once this season for, well, crap host, I think is just the best way to put it, and even from my own team. So that's their doing. But yeah, drivers now coming out on track, and it is as generally as it has been quite recently, the Kick Saubers who get out on track first, and it is David, who did race last night, who is racing here again. Who will get things underway, but quickly into the standings. Like I said, you know, SCI literally just need the 7 points pretty much just to wrap things up. The battle for P2 though continues. FRT outscored Ventari by a further 12 points last week, which extends their gap to 29 points to them for the battle for P2 and P3. Like I said, you know, Ventari have been there pretty much for the whole season up until these last 2 races, and FRT have decided to turn up a little bit more, I guess you could say. Just, you know, they've outscored everybody with a cumulative number of points in the last sort of 4 or 5 rounds, and that is why they have now found themselves in P2 in the standings. Obviously, so Ventari in P3. RT managed to retake 4th place from EVR after their decent performance, and EVR having a bit of a shocker, I think it's fair to say. Not quite as much of a shocker as Bravo Racing Club, who for the 3rd time this season picked up minus points, this time minus 11, so they are now back on 8 points. And, well, yeah, can they get a 4th? Are they still going to stay on plus points? I think that's their target for this season, if I'm brutally honest. Nonetheless, let's take a lap on board this infamous Monza circuit with David, the Polish driver, who, like I said, has been on fire recently in all different types of leagues that he's been partaking into the first chicane now. Downshift into second, nicely taken there, no issues at all as we go through the Rettifilia chicane, building up the speed now through turn 3 of the Curva Grande. Obviously you just keep the car to the right hand side before the pricking your braking point somewhere around where if there was a shadow there, which there isn't this time around, into the Della Rosia chicane. The sausage curve can easily unsettle the car there, no problems though for David. Nicely taken into Lesmo 1 now. Car can easily run out too wide here, more so here in Lesmo 2 if you take too much curb on the inside. Well, again, no such issues for the FRT man. Now down the DRS straight and into the Ascari chicane. Now look at this, left, Right. And how was that not an invalidation? Answers on a postcard, please. You can clearly see that front left tyre was over the white line, unless his rear left was still within track limits, and he's got away with one there. Into parabolic, 11 turns on this infamous circuit. Like I said, it's such a fast-flowing circuit after the first sector. Coming to the line now, what is it going to be for David? It's a 17.2 to kick us off. That is a great benchmarker there. His teammate Quantum is invalidated. He's the best part of 4.5 tenths down. So, yeah, a lot of work there to do for him. Lorenz only goes into, well, only does an 18-point flat and then quickly beaten by Callum there. Let's go on board with... He's actually coming to the line. There's a McLaren there. Let's go on board with Zane as he comes through Parabolica. He is actually invalidated himself. So some drivers, as we know, Randy, it's quite easy to invalidate here through Corcovating, especially through Ascari, finding it a little bit difficult in these early stages. Now, how were the championship legs? As Andrea has a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Shasta. I'm going to have to see some footage of that to whether or not that was legitimate or not. Venom coming to the line now only goes P6 and matches first time. The dead level to the nearest 1,000. Steve now goes into P2 ahead of Schumacher with a 17.2 of his own. Steve did look very good last night in the Legacy division. Just kind of didn't have the pace towards the latter stages. But either way, showed real promise there, did Steve, and hopefully can try and reflect that again here tonight. Here's Caden is going for a... He's actually just started his lap, so we'll go back on board with him afterwards. Quantum is not on a lap. Luca has just started. Zane we know invalidated, and Chasta had a collision with Andrea. And there's the well, there's the wing damage just to prove it. So maybe that was Andrea getting in the way of the Racing Bull there, and perhaps actually warranted maybe perhaps of a 5-place grid penalty. But let's go back on board with VNT Luca. Obviously, Vintari got a big job to do tonight to try and close in on FRT, so it's down to Sapala and Luca to try and displace the FRT team for P2 in the standings. David currently on provisional pole. Quantum, obviously, as we know, invalidated his first attempt. So let's see at least if these guys... Yeah, as he slides through the second Lesmore there. That is on the ragged edge there from Luca, but gets away with it. Coming down the DRS straight now. Under the bridge. Climbs the hill once again as we come into Ascari now. About a 10th off David, actually, through the first 2 sectors. So far, pretty good here for Luca to get a decent time on the board. Probably on course for maybe P3 at the moment. You can see Sapala is there in the background. So both VNTs are actually going a little off strategy to the rest of the field. Try and get a bit more clean air, I guess you could say. Caden only does an 18.3. There goes P14. It's currently slowest of the times that have been set so far. What's it going to be for Luca? It's only P7 in the end for him. A 17.6. Where does Sapala go? As he crosses line, it's only P11. So they've got a time on the board at least, but they are absolutely nowhere near the front. The best part of 4 to 5 tenths off the current pole setter, which is, of course, David for FRT. As you guys all know, if you want a fact regarding Monza, Italy, whatever, you know what you need to do. Good evening to you, Zach. Has Lorenz joined BRC? The answer is yes, he certainly has. Apparently, from what I read in the chat, he chose BRC over FRT, which is an interesting one as we go on board with him. We may as well. But yes, that was a well. Whatever he decided to make, to make it warrant to go there, that is entirely his choice, and that is where he is. Yeah, so as I've just kind of read in the chat, Chasta, who obviously got caught up with Andrea, it seemed warranted in terms of, because yeah, it just simple word, 4-letter word, bruh. Yeah, kind of tells me that Andrea was not paying attention, and that, yeah, that possible 5-place grid penalty was actually deemed warranted. I need to check the rules on that as to whether that is deemed a restart after qualifying or if we just continue on. But I'll have a look at that a little bit later, as we do have 3 drivers out on track getting ready to do their second attempt here in qualifying. Lorenzo down in P15 at the moment, being the first of the 3 drivers, as the kick-outs now decide to come out of the pits once again. Bobberts, be quiet. Well, if I do that, Smeggy, then you're not going to have any comms, are you? Let's be brutally honest. So yeah, you're going to have to deal with it, I'm afraid. Just then turn your volume down if you don't want to listen to it. Otherwise, if you do, then you know what you need to do. Here comes Lorenz now on his second attempt, then misses the apex on the inside through the first turn. Doesn't actually take any curb, or barely any curb whatsoever, through the Ritterfield chicane. Through the curb of Grande, just waiting for his braking line. He's got that kick salvo there of Quantum. Who'll just get out of his way through this second chicane, won't hold him up, as that is a little bit too much curve there from Lorenz, and picks up a little bit of grass there on his left-hand tyres. Might actually hamper him coming into the first Lesmo, gets away with it, no real issues in the end. Through the second Lesmo, nicely done there, much tidier compared to the chicane. So 51.4 is roughly what David did through the second sector. Lorenz, he's over 3.5 tenths up on his current best, but 2 tenths down off what David had done on his personal best. Really going full throttle, using all the track on the exit of Lorenz. He's really pushing this. He's been very aggressive, so he can get himself back, well, somewhere towards the mid to front end of this field, which is very tightly packed between from P4 down to P10 in particular by just over a tenth of a second. Where does Lorenz go? And the answer is it's only P12. He lost time in that final sector, and that has cost him at least one place to Sepala potentially. And in the end, it is only P12. Schumacher is, or was, on a lap, and I think has either been held up or has backed out, and probably not a very happy Schumacher as a result of that. Zane, in the meantime, has actually gone P5 for TRT, so TRT now currently locking out the third row as it currently stands, with Zane just ahead of Andrea, but obviously he does have that 5-place grid penalty for being a bit of an absolute spastic. And yes, I can say that word, and I did just say that word. Let's go on board with Sieb. Currently P2 for IRT. Teammate down in P14 of Boom Pie, who will certainly be hoping to get a better time than a 117.9. 300s down we are, though, at the end of the first sector, and the car sliding through the second chicane there for Sieb, taking as much of that sausage curve as he dares without it unsettling it too much or sending him off into Narnia. Through the second Lesmo, and that's sliding a bit too much, and well, that's the end result of it. Like I said, that's one corner like a Scari where you can invalidate your lap time, and Sieb has just done that, and that is him. Well, that is him done. Geronimo, in the meantime, has gone P4 and doing a slightly better job, at least compared to what he did last night. As just seen that, interesting. We're not going to comment on that any further, but we will comment and go on board with Paulie Massey for BRC, who's a 10th up after the first two sectors on his current PB as it currently stands. BRC, like I said, got minus 11 points after last week's race, and yeah, like I said, find themselves now back on 8 points only, as Thiago had initially got himself into P3, but Quantum is now displaced. Oh, sorry, not Quantum actually got into P3. Thiago goes into P4, so at least FRT now first and third and looking in a good, strong position at the moment. Paulie Massey now, though, goes ahead of Quantum into P3. Paulie Massey has been easily BRC's shining light this season, especially in qualifying, showing what they can be made of. But yeah, certainly going to have to find a little bit more. Obviously, at least for future races and future seasons. Venom now coming through the Parabolica corner, down in P12, now P13 as Boom Pie goes ahead of him into P11. Where's it going to be for the SCI man? The answer is he goes into P11, but only with a 17.5. And, well, both SCI drivers, like last night, pretty much struggling at these early stages. I mean, they don't need that many points. They just need 7 points. You're pretty much guaranteed, as long as there's no minus points in the final race, that they have won this title with a round to spare. Here comes Sepala now in P15 for VNT. Well, want to get himself higher up the field. He now goes into P11, but again, only P11 at the moment for Sepala. His teammate now up into P5 at least. Look at that, less than a tenth between them, but the 6 places in between the two. Well, 5 drivers and 6 cars in between the two of them. And again, I'm just reading in the chat, and this time, so yes, Schumacher was held up, and it was Callum who held up the EVR man there. And yeah, so Schumacher not happy with that. Callum showing his sincerest apologies, but yeah, good luck on trying to get Schumacher to accept your apology. Alex has got a time in, so just Chester now is the only driver to not get a lap time on the board. It looks like he's having a few issues, obviously one not of his own. Yeah, certainly struggling at the moment. Haron has just finished a lap. He does improve, going on a second attempt. Does a 17.507, so yeah, a small improvement, but stays is in P8 now for the time being. Luca not on a lap. Schumacher is on a lap. He is on a lap. Let's stay on board with Schumacher then. He's a little bit off sequence to everybody else after that being held up on his second attempt there, coming through the first Lesmo now. Going as far wide as he does. He would like to do the Tifosi proud here. His teammate down in P18. Well, I say about doing the Tifosi proud. He's not going to do them proud by going wide at the second Lesmo. And, well, that is him done. And that is him going back into the pits to try and go again. Haron obviously trying to get back to the pits. He's near enough out of fuel, actually, is the SC man. Everybody else is in the pits. So we've got this little bit of a lull in between in these final 4 minutes. These drivers are just going to wait and then go for one more final attempt. Good evening to you, Jack. Nice to see you, Bob. So will you please reduce the price for a question and a fact for next season? Well, Vola, I mean, it's not down to me, I'm afraid, buddy. You've got to speak to JT about that one and see if he certainly indeed will reduce that. So yeah, you can only beg and please to see what he would like to do. Jack asking, Bob, what's your favourite natural disaster? Well, that's a Jesus Christ. That's a question and a half. Right. I don't know how I can answer that question. I mean, there's certainly ones that were obviously more impactful than others. Jesus fucking hell. Yeah. I mean, the one that gets me, I think, still more than a lot of others was the tsunami on Boxing Day. I think it was in 2004. Was it 2004? I think it was 2004. That was obviously in for East Asia, like Japan, Indonesia, and all that area. That certainly was a hair-raising one in terms of you've gone out there to enjoy Christmas and there with your families, and everything else, etc. And then that comes along and it's like, where the hell did that come from? Have you seen how cool twin tornadoes look? I mean, yeah, twin tornadoes, yeah, they do look cool, I will be honest. I am a bit of a weather geek, actually, when it comes to it. I do like the weather, in terms of as a subject aspect, I guess you could say. I suppose, most Brits that's all we talk about, really, is weather, especially when you get older. So, yeah, apologies on that one, but either way, still, it is something that I do like. Grumpy, Rachel Reese's birth. I mean, well, that's, we're not going to go political, but, I could probably argue maybe Hitler as well, Grumpy. Maybe that's a bit too far. That's probably the worst thing, actually. That's on the other end of the coin. That's the worst thing. If I could, or if anybody could go back in time, it would be to block Hitler's dad. That would certainly be something to try and do. Yeah, I know, but where are you going to find all this money? And all it's just going to do is make people poorer, especially for those who do not have, they'll have fewer kids. So, again, I'm saying that as a slightly selfish aspect, I guess you could say. Anyway, I guess she's all about, upping the population even more so, rather than reducing it, or whatever else. Either way, let's get back to the action. All the drivers are now out on their outlaps unless they already started their final attempt, and Lorenz, being the first driver to start his final attempt. Let's see what his first sector split is. He's 200 something to 25.7. We've seen drivers in the 0.6s, maybe 0.5s, and that, well, there's taking too much sausage curd for you. Now that is the rear end kicking out. That is Lorenz done, unless he has time to to save that battery and go again. Obviously, we've got the constant yellow flag out in Sector 3 heading in towards Parabolica, because, yeah, look at that absolute park of a bus that everyone's trying to go so that they can get their final attempts in. Zane now has not invalidated. Let's see how he is through the middle sector. He's actually nearly half a tenth down at the moment, is Zane, so hopefully it's time to find in that final sector, and there isn't. He's invalidated. So Current provisional pole sitter David is the next driver. Look at the aggressive nature he's taking through Ascari. That is one of the best I have ever seen a driver take Ascari, and I hope he gets rewarded for it. Into Parabolica corner now, the final corner, takes it in 5th gear, runs it out wide, cuts it back to the right hand side, uses all the battery that he's got left to the start finish line. David improves to a 17.166. What can the rest of the drivers do to, well, can they better it? Quantum has invalidated. He is done. Shasta goes P13 now. At least he's got a time on the board. Here comes Schumacher now, down in P7. What can he do for EBR? Can he make the Tifosi proud? His teammate goes P13 only. Kind of Hamilton-esque is that. Schumacher is more like Leclerc, but unfortunately does not improve on his final attempt. He's a 10th.5 down. That is him done. Tiago finishes in P6. He does not improve. How is Haron getting on? He's down on his lap time. Venom stays P12. Luca goes to provisional pole by 4/1000 ahead of David, and David's dreams of a pole position have been wiped out completely. Bupai goes into P6 for IRT. IRT now in 3rd and 6th respectively. Andrea coming to the line now. Where's he going to go? He goes onto the 2nd row into P4. Here comes Sapala. He's down in P12. He stays P12. His teammate is on pole. He's down in our ways P13 as Caden goes into 9th place. Callum now coming to the line. He's actually missing his entire front wing. Where's he binned that at then? I have absolutely no idea. Lorenz goes into the pit. Zane we know is done as well. VNT's Luca does what he needs to do. He's at least out-qualified both FRT drivers and gives VNT a slither of a chance to get themselves, well, to close the gap in as best as they can. But David is going to be so unhappy with that. No, I mean, I thought his Ascari was absolutely brilliant, but yeah, right. I now need to find, right, unfair grid penalties. Right, so, Right, so because I've kind of been told, or no one has said anything to me regarding that it is unfair, then we do not have a restart. So, okay. Now that I have just clarified and found out regarding the rules and just getting confirmation from Andrea himself, so as per the rule book, as it says on rule 3.8, and I am going to read this out just so that you can all hear it. So obviously, if the driver had finished qualifying in the top 10, well, it says as per the rules. Sorry, so the driver or manager needs to tell the admin if the grid pen was unfair or not. If it wasn't unfair, then we shall continue. So there is no restart, and so basically, yeah. So it continues. We carry on. Now I've got people complaining about going at 30 rather than 29. Right, okay. Anyway, so we've got less than 2 minutes to have to wait now that everything's been cleared up and everything is all sorted. Smeggy asking where did we qualify? Well, in fact, I'll bring it up for you. Because Andrea's penalty was deemed fair, it means those who who were, what, well, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 all move up a spot. So, that is where SCI qualified in the end. Smeggy, the answer is 11th and 14th. So there you go. So that is your new grid. So Luca and David and Steve still remaining your top 3. Polymassy now starting P4 from Quantum, Bupai, Tiago and Caden. Andrea drops to P9 for his legitimate silliness in qualifying there. Everybody else is as they were, with Lorenz bringing up the rear of the field. We now have less than a minute to go to have to wait, and so it was even worse than what you initially told. So there you go. But the thing is though, Smeg, all SCI need is 7 points, so long as they don't get minus points next week, and FRT have to get 1-2 and get fastest lap. They just need 7 points to guarantee that they are, that they're champions. And that's all it takes, that's all it needs to be. So there's no problem. And I know Venom is racing. I am fully aware of that, but I'm hoping Jerome can do a good job at least. So that's what I'm banking on. So I've got my fingers crossed at least for that one. Either way, it is now hour. The drivers will now be readying up, which shouldn't be too much longer to have to wait. Finley can't afford effect, but can you tell me how Salah has forgot to play football? Well, Finley, because I'm a Manchester United supporter, obviously, I do highly rate. So I'm not washed or anything like that. I'm not going to say stupidity. Salah is a great player, but he is, this season, for whatever reason, he's just obviously decided that he's just going to become shit. But enough about Salah. We're back onto the grid. We have 5 red lights for round 14 of the TTC Premier Tier season. It is lights out and away we go. It's a decent start there by Luca. Not such a good start actually from David there, and could potentially be getting put under threat here from Polymassy. Going down into turn 1 with 3 wide into the first turn. The Aston Martin there and Steve going around the outside. Polymassy had to just back out of it a little bit, but Steve manages to get into P2 ahead of the kick Sauer there. David still in P3 with Polymassy P4. He's got Quantum now trying to get round his outside through the Curb Grande to have the inside line into the chicane, but he's backed out a bit. Polymassy goes to the inside line to cover his position as best as he can, and indeed he does that. There was a bit of a mistake there from Steve in P2, almost opening the door there for David, and actually Lucas almost pulled away a second as a result of that, and in fact it is now a second, so Luca could potentially pull away here as much as he can. No issues for everybody else. Everybody gets through the first half a lap, as it were. We'll bring all the detail up. Top 10 on medium compounded tyres, and you've got 7 drivers in the bottom 10 on hards, with Olix, Chasta and Lorenz being on the medium compounded tyres to try and gain some places if they can. Let's go on board with Boom Pie in P6 as Seaba's actually closed that gap to Luca out in front, so Luca has not been able to get away. Seaba's probably used that battery to close that gap in a bit more, which indeed he has done. There's a lot of shuffling going on in the background. That is Zane trying to go up the inside of Heron there. He's got the second Mercedes, an SCI driver of Venom in right behind. He's in a Mercedes sandwich here. Is the McLaren man for TRT. He's tried to use all of his battery to try and get ahead. It's not happened. Venom now to try and go for a move on the inside line. He's got Sapala now though, trying to get there as he comes back across onto the racing line. Sapala hits the rear of the Mercedes. I mean, there was a gap, to be fair. He was allowed to do that. Was Venom, but Sapala will be absolutely furious. He's now at the rear of the field. Here comes Olix now for EVR in the Ferrari to try and bring up a bit of a cheer for the Tifosi. Round the outside though goes Venom to try and maintain that position as much as he can. He just about leaves enough room, and then we're going rallying. I think they've locked tyres. Venom now drops to P16, Smeggy. I'm afraid I think that decision to put Venom in might not have been a good call, but either way, he's now down to P16. That was absolute carnage. Let's go back towards near the front of the field on board with Caden in P6. Finley going, yeah. I was just going to say, Finley, were you being sarcastic? And in the end, yes, you were. Oh, Lara Fox, I did not see that you've requested a fact. When it calms down a little bit, I will get a fact for you, my friend. Don't you worry about that. But what would you like a fact about? About Italy, about Monza, or, you know, your choice. Your choice. As we start lap 3 already of this Grand Prix. We're going to have a quick look as actually Quantum getting very close to the back of Polymassey. He wants to get the move done. Polymassey to end into the middle. No! Is he going to hit his teammate? Oh my word! He locked up the rear brakes there, did Quantum. He almost T-boned his own teammate. And as he tries to get the move done on Polymassey, who is trying to defend that for all his might, Quantum in the end gets the move done sideways into the first turn. That was almost... well, that was kind of like nearly Red Bull between Ricciardo and Verstappen back in Baku. That is certainly not what they would have wanted, and Caden had a front row seat for that. Let's have a quick look at the position changes. Obviously, Sapala's lost 6 places. After that turn 1 clash on lap 2, Venom obviously dropped to 3. Lorenzo's gained 5 places. He's the biggest mover at the moment. Luca has not moved, and everybody else in behind him, near enough down to Andrea, has either lost or gained a position. That is Andrea now, though, trying to gain a position on Thiago in front of him, who did also race last night here at Monza, but did not quite get the move done there. Here comes Schumacher now, though. He's got a little bit of an overlap on the inside of the McLaren there, going into Parabolica corner. He will have the inside line. There's nothing Andrea can do about that. Schumacher gets the move done. He's now up into P9. The answer, Dirk, is Lorenz is in BRC. He's gone to BRC, that is the Haas car, he's gone there. As Sapala sets the fastest lap of the race on his hard compounded tyres with that clean air. That just shows what clean air can do for you. As Schumacher now tries to go for a second move, I can see him wheels locking there in the background between Andrea and Rowan. Schumacher now goes into P8 with 2 moves done there in the space of 2 corners. And the Ferrari man is on the move. Haron now has got himself ahead of Andrea. He's the lead hard tyre runner, currently in P10. He did this last night, started on hard compounded tyres, hoping to try and go again. Okay, so Blair Fox, I'm guessing obviously you've not responded, so I'm just going to find you a Monza fact for you. In fact, we'll go slightly further up towards the front. Let's go on board with David in P3 as he tries to close down on Sieb. In the meantime, right, let's find a quick fact then. What we got? Okay, so Monza has had a few different layouts, a couple of different layouts at this time. Oh my word, that is Caden sending it down the inside there, and Polymassey, who is feeling like he's on the ragged edge at the moment. Caden actually having a bad run through the first chicane, and Boompai now looking interested as Heron now gets the move done on Thiago. So he's now gaining and making places, just like Schumacher is. Boompai, is he going to get the move done on Caden? The answer is no. Right, your fact regarding Monza. It is the oldest circuit on the current Formula 1 calendar. Its history dates back to 1922 when it hosted the first Italian Grand Prix, and obviously we are still here now in 2025, and it will be back again next year. Obviously it initially had a 10-kilometre layout of the original circuit, which obviously had that humongous banked oval. If any of you have seen I think Top Gear may have been there, and may have shown it. You may have seen it on there. Otherwise, go and have a look, and you will not be disappointed. Which car is missing? It is indeed the second Williams. I think it's... Yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's the second Williams of Legacy Racing, who have only got the one driver tonight, unfortunately, because their second driver could not make it in time, or he couldn't get back home from work, I should say. Lap 6 already of this Grand Prix. Luca has led every single lap at the moment, and Sieb has been all under his gearbox for near enough the whole time as he outbrakes himself there. It's turn 1. David now wants to try and get that P2 back that he lost on the first lap. gets a better run compared to the Aston Martin, but in the end, a bit of battery there deployed from Stephen Dowd has no response to that. He's got his teammate Quantum there. Azaria got it in P4, so Kick Sauber and FRT looking decent, even though Luca is leading with Sapala down at the rear of the field. He's got no such there's no issues there for FRT as it currently stands. Polymassy been in the walls a little bit in P5 from Caden P6, and you have Boompipe Schumacher, who's been gaining places throughout this race so far, as has Huron in P9, your lead hard tyre runner. Then you have Tiago, who rounds out the top 10, and you've got the duo of TRT of Andrea and Zane. Chester and Lorenz are your point scorers as it currently stands. Then you have Alex, Callum, Venom, Fleur and Sapala, who has now closed in on the back of this train, has been setting fastest laps on his hard compounded tyres, so all is not lost just yet for the VNT man, but yeah, certainly not ideal to say the least, as that was Fleur having a big mistake of a run there through Ascari. That is going to open the door for Sapala, is he going to go moving down the inside? The answer is no. We're going to stick on board with him though, because I do expect him to try and get a move done here on the Williams, down the pit straight and in towards turn 1. We'll actually stick on board with him as he deploys the battery. Fleur have probably not realised that he's doing that, and here comes the Red Bull. And in fact, is he going to get a double overtake done here? Is he going to get Venom as well? The answer is no. And is he going to go back to the racing line? He holds the middle of the circuit, and oh my word, there's more contact between the two of them. They came to blows before, and they've come to blows again. Smeg, do we need to have a chat with him? I don't know. So yeah, that's enough of that sort of shenanigans. Let's go back towards the front. Blur Fox, who is, sorry, my favourite Top Gear member? It's got to be Jeremy Clarkson. It has to be every day of the week. Why is Venom dead? Did you not just see what he and Sapala have just done? You literally probably turned your head for 1 second, Smeg, and you just missed the contact between him and Sapala for the second time this race. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he'll tell you all about it, so I don't need to worry about that. As we start lap 8 already of this Grand Prix, that was Caden going all well over to the right-hand side there. Chiron now gets the move done on Schumacher, and these hard tyres are now starting to be the better race tyre here. Is Schumacher going to go for the move and take that position back? The answer is no, but Chiron now up into P8 as it currently stands, and yeah, doing a good job on those hard tyres. Obviously, he's going to have the he's going to be loving it now. He's going to have to put up with the pain a little bit later on and then get onto those medium compounded tyres and see how that goes. Where do points go down to, Zach? The answer is it go down to 14th place. And also, Zach, I have just realised that you did sending a fact as well, so I will get a fact for you, my friend. As we'll go on board with Huron, actually, who at the moment seems to be the only driver, as it currently stands, who's making at least clean overtakes. No pun intended there, obviously. And he's getting moves done. In fact, he's got another one done there, obviously, as you can see. Gets ahead of Boom Pie into P7. His next target is going to be Caden, out in front. Boom Pie's teammate Steve. This is the closest I have seen him all race, out of Parabolica onto the back of Luca, and DRS activated, battery being used, and Luca for the first time this race, it's taken onto lap 9, but Steve takes the lead of the Grand Prix. IRT lead the way for one of the few times that they have done this season, not because of strategy but because of pace aspect, and that is Steve, like I said, now leading from Luca. David still in P3 from Quantum in P4. Huron now going to try and close in onto the back of Caden and Polymassy if he can. Chester goes into the box. He's the first driver to make a pit stop, and he's going to go 19 laps on his hard compounded tyres. That should be okay. I mean, obviously last night we had Kevin Zumberg get a puncture on his 20th lap, so he should be okay. Lorenz now, though, has dropped out of the DRS of the TRT drivers in front of him, so Lorenz struggling here for BRC at the moment as he slides through the first Lesmo there. Now that was a perfect time to be on board with him as he comes through there and just completely slides, and he's actually got a lot, he's quite low on fuel as well. It's the BRC man. We will go further back towards the front. As I just realised, I mean, it hadn't done it yet, but I've just started the new party, so I don't get kicked out, and then I'm in game chat. So there we go. Is Seeb going to pit? The answer is no. A little bit of a dummy there, trying to catch him out. Quantum does indeed pit, and he speeds into the pit lane, as does Caden. Do drivers not know how to go into the pits without, you know, doing stupidity like that? The answer is no. As Fleur and Sepala close on track with a very hot Venom trying to close in at the same time as well, who's obviously going to be a bit livid and raging, as was Sepala. There's going to be a lot of adrenaline between those two drivers, and then there's a Fleur in between the pair of them. As the top five, there is now that gap between Heron and Schumacher there, between P5 and P6. Right, I will now get that fact. So, back in 1971, which was then and still is F1's closest ever finish, Peter Gething crossed the line only 0.01 seconds ahead of Ronnie Peterson. So that is 1/100th of a second. Yeah. And to just to you know, clarify and go on top of that even further, the top, what was it, 5 drivers was separated by only 0.6 of a second. So there you go. There is your fact, Zach. I hope you appreciate it. As yeah, we go. That's it. We carry on, and we go from there. More drivers coming into the box. Luca decided to stay out, which might not be a bad thing. We did see last night Ward's going a lot further on his mediums, and it actually nearly paid off for him compared to Otsuzito. But obviously that was also down to the fact that it was starting to rain. There was no such rain here for this race, and it is just wall-to-wall blue sky sunshine. So Luca leads the way from Herona in P2, the lead hard tyre runner who started on them. Zayd is P3 from Callum, and Olix, the last medium tyre runner, yet to stop. The lead driver is Quantum now, who has made a pit stop, and excuse me, he is now in P9. Just there ahead of Seeb, obviously, who's got 1 lap fresher tyres and has at least managed to stick with him. Caden is now technically a net P3, maybe, depending on where Luca comes out when he comes into the box. A little bit wide there from Caden, not too sure if he picked up a warning for that. By the way, so he's now net P3 for David in P4, who'll want to get a move done as quickly as he can. Does not go for it this time. I thought he was going to then, but interestingly decides to back out, and Luca does indeed pit. So Heron now leads the way on his hard tyres. He will extend those for at least another 5 laps, I would say, maybe 6, before going on to the mediums, unless obviously a safety car comes out. Then he will take that free pit stop. Polymassi now closing in on the back of David, who trying to recharge his battery. He's had pretty much none at all, and this actually is going to be pretty easy overtake here for Polymassi on David there. David, yeah, not really smart there from him, and that is Luca exited the pit lane, and he's split this little trio of 4 drivers now, and is in behind Caden. So Quantum is your net race leader from Seeb in P2, and these 2 drivers are now 1.4 seconds clear of Caden, who's in net P3. Luca now, though, going for the move straight away round the outside of the curb. Grande gets back to the racing line. He actually outbrakes himself there a little bit, catches Caden out ever so slightly. Caden now going to try and go for a move down the inside of Lesmore 1. Does he get the move done? He is actually ghosted there briefly, but no harm done. But that is Caden now behind Luca. Luca into P9 on track, net P3, but a lot of work here to do for Luca. 1.7 seconds now is the gap to Seeb, who's trying to stick with Quantum as best as he can. Then you've got this gaggle of cards of Luca, Caden, Polymassi, David, and Boom Pie now has joined the end of this queue for what is going to be the potential final step on the podium. Venom knows what to do. Yep, we do indeed. We now know what Venom needs to do. Yes. Well, let's get back on board with the action. Caden half a second behind Luca, but here comes Polymassi. Is he going to go for a move? The answer is no. Caden's got next to no battery near enough here, but he's going to go for the move either way on Luca. and gets himself back into P9. Polymassi not really interested in going for the move. I'm not too sure why Caden's gone for the move, if I'm brutally honest, considering that Caden has got fresher tyres and is the quicker driver, as he almost squeezes Polymassi there a bit too much. And Polymassi now trying to get a move done here. Luca's not wanting to go for the move on Caden. He wants to save that battery now as much as he can to try and go for the move later on, but they're just hampering time now over these two, being Seb and Quantum, who are just pulling away corner by corner, lap after lap. Once again, getting Caden in the background and going wide at the second Lesmo. Obviously, we've also got to bear in mind here that the amount of drivers who have got penalties. There you can see, so Venom and Sepal have got 3-second penalties for corner cutting and track extension, but Quantum and Caden have got 10-second penalties for speeding into the pit lane. So Seb technically is your net race leader with, yeah, not speeding. But look at this train. Look at this train that has now been joined by more drivers at the back of it, and Caden leading this train. Nice little bit of lag there. I don't know if that was me or whether that was from Caden, but yeah, from Caden all the way now down to Lorenz in P18. So P9 to P18 in this big train. Luca now trying to go for the move on Caden. He's going to have the inside into the second part of the chicane. Oh, they lock wheels and Caden goes sideways a little bit there. No harm done, they still keep on going. Luca is going to have, does he have the battery? He just has the battery to get ahead of the Racing Bull here. I'm not too sure why Caden's going for this move. I think it's all down to his penalty. And, well, he sends it down the inside. Luca's not going to be happy with that. And I don't think Caden particularly cares as to what is happening. I think he's just happy to let this happen. He maybe try and bring his teammate into this battle, which indeed he has done. But, yeah, anyone want to answer this interesting call from Caden as to why he's doing this? Because I sure as hell don't have a clue. We're halfway into this race. The road still leads, 6 seconds clear from Zayn. Luca now goes back ahead of Caden, but he's just going to lose that position once again. Probably going down the pit straight, and yeah, still unsure as to what this is all about. David there now trying to get closer to the pair of them, but he hasn't got as much battery compared to the two in front of him. He's got 1 lap fresher tyres compared to Caden, but yeah, still unsure as to what this is all about. But here comes Caden once again. We'll stay on board with that. Well, we will stay on board with David. We'll actually just watch him from a very weird angle there, which probably doesn't really help. Down the outside there goes David, and there's a lot of curb there taken from Luca, and there's also in behind him, that is Polymassi, and Boompai going at it. Boompai trying to get the move done on Polymassi, which is only for P12. But in the end, Boompai gets the move done. Polymassi trying to fake a move down the inside there, but not really happening. And now this allows Chasta to close in. There you got Tiago, you've got Schumacher, you've got Andrea, and you've got Lorenz, like I said, at the back of this. Even Alex is far, he might be 4 seconds behind, but he probably could even catch up at the rate this is going. That gap now 4.6 seconds between Caden and Seb, which, it's, yeah, there's just not a single brain cell between them as to why the hell they're doing this. There's even more weaving and swerving going on. Either way, let's go back now to Quantum and Seb, who have caught Fleur and Venom. Venom, is he going to try and do a job here for his teammate Haron, who leads the race? Sapala pits at the end of lap 16 to do 11 laps in the mediums. That's his strategy goal. He's going to go for an earlier pit stop to see what he can do. Here comes Quantum now, though, down the inside of Fleur. This he's past the first of the two drivers. Now he's just got Venom in front of him. Is he going to put up a bit of a defence here? That answer is no. Just waves the white flag. Does he think he's French? Oh, he's got a puncture. That's why. Venom, just to put, yeah, misery on his race, he's somehow picked up a puncture on lap 16 when we went to lap 20 last night. Bear in mind, he is on a pad, so yeah, tyre wear is going to be worse for him compared to those on a you know, on a wheel. But either way, that's not ideal for Venom, and well, that's his race over and done with. So it's all down to Haron to make sure that he can get the points here to wrap up the title. Well, I say that also comes down to R14 getting a 1-2 finish and having fastest lap, which at the moment I've got the wrong one, haven't I? He's actually with Olix, so yeah, that's not happening. Now, that would have been funny, I suppose, wouldn't it, if he did do that. Either way, when a CI driver leads this race, he's 15 seconds clear of Quantum, now in P2. Seeb now up into P3, obviously with the drivers on the hard tyres now going for their stops onto the mediums. Apart from Haron, obviously, he's going to go one lap longer. I tell you what, Haron could actually come out in P3 here. With all this battle that's been going on with Caden and Luca in particular, this actually might work out to his benefit. The gap is 20.7 seconds as it currently stands. Yeah, Haron looking actually in a very, very good position here. So we'll see where he comes out if he does indeed go into the box as he waves past his teammate there, who is having fun with his pretending to be Gilles Villeneuve and having 3 wheels on his car. Does Haron indeed pit? Indeed he does. I've said indeed twice there. That doesn't really make sense. So let's see where he comes out in relation to this trade from Caden down to Olix in P14. And then you've got the medium tyre runners who aren't all that far behind. But let's go on board with the Mercedes of Haron. Where does he come out? So obviously Venom has gone into the pit. He is retired from this race. We're now down to 18 drivers. But yeah, so let's see. Where does Haron come out? He's going to be the lead medium tyre runner. But what position is he going to be out on track? There's P9. There's Schumacher, who's currently in P10. And the answer is Schumacher's trying to outbrake him round the outside there to the inside into the second part of the chicane through turn 2. Haron is going to try and just outdrag him. In the end, Schumacher does not really put up much of a fight at the end of it. So Haron comes out in P9. He's in a good position as it currently stands to get a podium finish here. I think a top 2 might be out of the equation, but there's still plenty of time for him to do that as Andrea now barges his way past Schumacher, who I think wasted a bit of energy and is now paying the price for it. There goes Lorenz now to try and get a move done past the Ferrari driver. I didn't realise that Polymassi had dropped down into P13, you know. And he doesn't look like he's got any damage either, so I'm not too sure what's happened there. But he's going to go for the move here on the Ferrari of Schumacher. Lorenz is going to try and give his teammate a little bit of slipstream. Polymassi going to outbrake him, try and go around the outside, but not... Yeah, couldn't really get the car turned in. I think there's a little bit of damage actually on this Haas that's not visible to us, but surely causing him to have a fair bit of understeer, and as a result he is paying the price for it as Schumacher now lets his teammate go past. So has Schumacher now got an issue potentially, or is it just derating? Again, not too sure as Zane now wants to go for the move. On Schumacher, who's just hampering and losing positions hand over fist. Haron gets the move done on Chasta. He's now up into P7, and he just has Boompai, Luca, David and Caden to pass and get himself moving to P3, which actually would be a net P2 with Venom's 10-second penalty. Obviously Caden has his own as well. But here comes Haron through the Curb Grande, round the outside of Boompai. Does not defend, has no interest in wanting to do that. He comes back onto the racing line, does not get shafted up the rear, at least by the Aston Martin, and now he's rolling up into P6. And indeed, yes, Phil, he's going to have fun on these tyres. I mean, look at the speed and the pace that he is setting in. He's still got plenty of battery at his disposal as well. His next target is VNT's Luca. He's using that battery now, and Luca has decided, I'm just not even going to defend that. There's absolutely no need. And there goes Haron. He's now up into P5. That's another driver done, ticked off the list. Next up is David. That will be for a net P2 as it currently stands. Polymassi now picks up a time penalty. He's now down, dropped into P15 as the BRC man. Smeg, yeah, that's more than 7 points considering he's a net P3 at the moment with the 10-second penalties for Quantum and Caden, and he's now set fastest lap. So yeah, as Troy has said, we good. we is definitely good. But we've still got 8 laps to go, including this one. David trying to get the move done here on Caden, but here comes Heron once again. I've clicked the wrong button, and a little mistake there for David, and not a lot of traction, and that is moved done and dusted. Here comes Heron now. Does Caden defend this one? He does not. What a drive this has been from Heron since he's been on these medium compounded tyres. He has just overtaken everybody like they just weren't even there. He's now up into P3, which is a net P2. He's got 5.5 seconds to catch up if he can on the 2 drivers in front of him. Can he drag this lot along for the ride? Probably not. I mean, Caden does have DRS, but he's surely not going to keep that. Coming out of Ascari. In fact, he's already over a second down, and he'll just want to save that battery to try and defend from the drivers behind, even though he does have that penalty. Well, let's stick on board now with this big train, and that goes obviously from Caden down to Schumacher in P17. Schumacher and Paulie Massey have just been dropping positions, just dropping like a stone really. I'm not too sure why that is as well. Just noticed Fleury's 10 seconds off the back of the train. Not too sure what's happened to him, unfortunately. But yeah, he's not having a particularly good race. So as it stands, Sieb will win this race from Heron and David in P3. But there's still 7 laps to go here. Plenty of things that could happen. But Chester now starting to struggle. Can he get back within the 1 second window? He can to Boom Pie, but this is certainly splitting up the field a little bit. Olix now going down the inside of Lorenz into the second chicane. There's contact between the pair of them. Lorenz sends Olix into the kitty litter there, and unfortunately for Olix, the good positions he's just gained, he's now lost. He's now back behind, well, he's now lost places to Zane and Callum, who are also on their medium tyres, so will be better at this stage. That is Paulie Massey in the background. We saw that on stream. Loss of grip, loss of traction into the wall. Surprisingly, it's not a VSC or even well, probably a VSC if I'm honest, but with the carbon fibre and wing on the track. But that is Paulie Massey's race done with, unfortunately for him. Again, another good qualifying for him and for BRC, but in the end, doesn't amount and come to anything. Sieb is comfortable behind Quantum, but especially with the amount of battery that he's got. Hirona's got no battery left, but 3.6 seconds now is the gap. Anything happening in behind? Is Luca close enough for a move on David? This is for a net P3, and this is important for VNT if they're to close in on FRT, or at least try and negate some of the loss of points that they're going to have. Luca has a much better exit from on turn 2 there. He's got the traction, but in the end he doesn't go for the move, and David just holds on for now, even though he did kind of decide he wanted to turn into camouflaging into the grass there. But yeah, Luca he's had these fresher tyres, but he's not been able to do anything with it, especially with the likes of Caden just, defending like a lion, really. Probably the best way to put it. Troy, you do know Quantum's pen's a 10-second penalty, don't you? Unless he got pushed into the pits and that's how he picked it up, but he got it from speeding into the pit lane. Either way, here comes Sieb now, going for the lead of the race. Is this the time for the IRT man to make his move and try and win this race to make sure that Quantum doesn't, can get his 10-second penalty removed? This is just what I'm reading in the chat. I'm not too sure about that, if I'm brutally honest. But if he did indeed get pushed, then that is... Oh, there's a yellow flag. Lorenz is actually out of this race. He's actually retired, that's why. Never mind. That is both BRC drivers now out of this race. They have retired. That is them done for the day. Fleur now gaining positions as a result. But I tell you what, the Tifosi are not going to be happy with Olix and Schumacher down in P14 and P15. They've each had their troubles, and as a result, they are paying the price for it. Unfortunately for them, Sapala P13, but does have his 3-second time penalty. You got Callum there in 12th. You got the TRT boys still together in P10 and 11, have been for a lot of this race, if I'm brutally honest. Thiago P9, Chasta still in P8, so still within that 1 second at least of Boot Pie. Like I said, then you've got this train, obviously, with Cade, David and Luca heading the front of it. Heron now 2.3 seconds off the back of Quantum, and maybe this is why Sieb has gone for the move. He sees that Heron is catching very quickly. Caden has a 10-second penalty. Ray is the answer to that. He sped into the pit lane, so that is why he's kind of been defending like a bit of a madman, if we're brutally honest. No, Phil, it wasn't by C. In fact, no, Quantum... Yeah, Quantum was the first to pit. If you look at the laps that they pitted, he was the first to pit on at the end of lap 14. I don't think he was pushed by anybody. Yeah, I think he was actually all on his own, and unless the only person who was potentially near him would have been Caden, because obviously he got his 10-second penalty as well. But Sieb pit the lap later than Quantum did, so fair enough. Yeah. It actually got me thinking genuinely, did he actually do it then for a second? But yeah, never mind. Dirk, you want a fact? Right. Let's get your fact, sir. As we actually now end lap 24 and are about to start lap 25. Heron now 1.4 seconds off the back of Quantum. He's going to have literally no time at all. Next to no battery as well to try and get a move done here, but he is still gaining. He's now been gaining on Caden, who's been trying to pull away from this. The answer is yes, he is. But here comes Luca now. He's trying to go for a move again on David, going down the inside line as David had to do that because of Caden moving to the right-hand side. And in the end, David just holds on for the time being, and he's got a little bit more battery as well to deploy on the exit of turn 2 through the Curva Grande. He's going to hold the inside line. There you go. He just pulls away now. And Luca, once again, hampered and stuck behind that Kick Sauber in front of him. Right, so I'm going to try again for your fact. Mr. Dirk? So, your fact, Dirk, as we start the penultimate lap of this race, did Heron get DRS? Yes, he did. So he'll have one lap and one attempt to try and go for the win here, if he possibly can. Right on board with David once again. I think he just wants to get ahead of Caden afterwards if he can, and just keep Luca behind him, which indeed he is doing. Is Thiago close enough to Chasta here to get a move done on the inside? He's going to try and late break Daniel Ricciardo as get into turn 1. Chasta leaves in the space on the inside lane. Clean, fair driving there from Chasta. In the end, he does keep the position. He's got much more battery as well compared to the Alpine. But here comes Zane now. He's got much more battery compared to Thiago. Has he burnt his battery too quickly, too soon? The answer is yes, he has. He tries to force his way down the inside line, but nothing doing there. Zane takes advantage of that. He goes into P9. Luca's now losing out to Chasta. And Boot Pie, what's happened to Luca? Has he got into the gravel? Did he did he have an incident through the sausage curve maybe? I didn't see it. I do apologise. Either way, Luca now down into P8, and FRT are going to be laughing their heads off. I tell you what though, Quantum is actually now on course for P3. Caden 10.1 seconds off the back of Heron has actually allowed Quantum to stay on the podium here. Is he going to defend though from Heron, who will want to try and attack Sieb? Here comes the Mercedes, and Quantum lets him go. He is not going to attack or defend. It is going to be Sieb versus Heron on this final lap to take victory here tonight. Right, Dirk, back to your fact quickly. Drivers spend roughly 80% of the lap at full throttle here, which is a lot higher than any other circuit that we come to here. 80% of the lap and you're on full throttle. Oh, David, why have you just gone and done that? Why have you just gone and got yourself a 3-second time penalty? And that has cost you any chance of a podium. Boopai's actually got ahead of him, actually. I completely missed that. Boopai is actually on course for a P4. He's going to try and get the move done on Caden here. I want to have a look at Rowan. Down the inside. Does he make the move? No, he does not. Davi's going to try and take the place back. I'm going back with the leaders because Heron is all over the back of the Aston Martin in front of him that has more battery. But can the slipstream work here for the Mercedes and of Heron? Can Steve hold on? The battery that he has saved is just going to be enough for him to hold on. I know there's a lot of shenanigans happening in the background. Chas has actually lost a load of positions. But here comes your race victor, potentially provisionally here tonight. And it is Steve who wins at Monza, just ahead from Heron. Quantum will hold on to P3 as Chasta actually crashed at Ascari, which is unfortunate for him. Caden will have his penalty. That means Boompie finishes in P4, and it is first and fourth for IRT, their best result of the season by far. Tiago in the end finishes in P5, Zane P6 from Callum, Andrea, Oleg somehow is P9, David with his penalty finishes in 10th in the end. Schumacher finishes 11th for the second EVR car and for the Tifosi, who at least will be slightly better off. At least they were 14th and 15th, and it's 9th and 11th, which is a little better, but it's not much better. We will get to the rest of the results as there is Seb indeed celebrating, as he should. We're going to skip that though. We're going to skip this bit as well because I need to obviously check the rest of the standings. Obviously, he had Sapala in the end finishes P12 from Luca in P13. Caden in the end gets a point and finishes in P14. But after that race, and because obviously FRT did not get a 1-2, it didn't matter in the end, and with her own finishing in P2, SCI are your Season 5 TTC Premier Tier champions. Congratulations to SCI and well done on winning the team's championship this season with one round to go. Fully deserved. I'm not saying that's a bias aspect. They've won more races. They've had 3 1-2 finishes, and even though they had an issue with Venom here tonight, Heron has done the job and comes home in P2. But Steve, what a result, what a performance there for him and for Boompie. First and fourth for IRT. They're, like I said, easily best result of the season, and they can hold their heads high. And actually, is there a small chance for IRT to close in? I'm going to quickly check the standings, actually. So IRT in P4... No, it was 109 points to VNT, and even though VNT did not have a great race, they're going to have to need a more luck exactly like tonight for that to happen. But it's still a great result, and they pull away and cement 4th place ahead of Evolution Racing Team. Obviously, we're only 8 points behind them before coming into tonight. But like I said, Shazoo are your champions. Congratulations to their team and to all their drivers who took part. And they can now put their feet up and just take it easy in for the final race of the season, which is next week at the Yas Marina circuit at Abu Dhabi. Obviously, we have the top tier and Artemis tier tomorrow and Friday, so please come in and watch that. Stay tuned for that tomorrow and Friday night. I will be back for the finale next week. Will I be on my own? Will I have somebody with me? Probably going to be the first one. Let's be brutally candid here. But thank you all very much for watching this here with Bobbert in the box here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys, and the rest of your week.